Purple Rain album is complete. 9 brilliant tracks that changed pop music in 1984 and sent Prince to the highest of creative highs. But wait, there's more. Prince and the Revolution gave us 4 completely new B-sides to support the singles released on this album. Joining me to discuss the first of these classic B-sides, 17 Days, is Karen Shedrick. Welcome back to the show, Karen.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm glad to have you back. It's a Purple Rain era. Moving on to the B-sides. With the 45 singles being still very popular in the early to mid-80s, there was a need to be filled for these B-sides, for the flip side of the A-side singles. When Doves Cry, 1999, Let's Go Crazy. I mean, they all had B-sides that were, unique to listeners, something that they couldn't find on albums. And that is a very, I think, memorable aspect of Prince's career in the 80s. For you, Karen, 17 Days as a B-side. Did you know this song when it was released as the B-side to When Doves Cry?
Well, I was introduced to it when I bought the single When Doves Cry, and it was a nice little present, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Something brand new, something different, something that, I didn't know about until I bought the single. I'm not sure if artists were doing B-sides at that time. Maybe they were. But I think he definitely had something as far as the idea of putting new music on the back of popular singles. I think that was a terrific idea. And I was pleasantly surprised when I heard this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was something that was done at the time because there was limited space on vinyl. You could only fit so much music on, a vinyl record. But Prince had a lot of music that he was recording at this time. He had more music than what could be fit on a 12-inch record. So, the running time for Purple Rain is around, I think, probably 45 minutes. There's 9 tracks. But there was a lot of more music that he could have put on. Like if this was released in the CD era, when you could have 60, 70, even 80-minute long albums and have it all fit onto one CD, it might have turned out a little different. There might have been, this might have made it to the album. This could have been an album track. Or maybe not. We'll never know. But there certainly wouldn't have been the limitations of the style of media that was popular at the time. Even cassettes, yeah, you could fit a lot more music on a cassette than you can a record, but as long as records were still equally popular, that was going to be like the limiting factor, was how much music can you put on a record and keep it a single album and not do a double LP like 1999. For me personally, 17 Days, I missed out on it when it was released as the B-side to When Doves Cry. I missed out on it because the previous Christmas, my older sister had received a boombox for Christmas, and so that had a tape player. Mm-hmm. So now records were no longer our primary musical format. It was now cassettes. And so she had stopped buying 45s for singles. She stopped as soon as she got that boombox because now we could record songs off the radio.
Right.
I'm sure you remember that. It's like, well, why spend the money on a 45 when you can just pop in a blank cassette in your boombox, listen to the radio and hit that record button, and now you've got the single and you can fit, 20, 30 songs on a 60 to 90 minute tape. And it was the more economical approach for sure.
For all of us, yes.
Yeah. So I didn't hear 17 Days because I never bought the 45. I didn't have it. I didn't know anybody who had the When Doves Cry 45. So I didn't come across 17 Days until the Hits and B-Sides collection that came out in 1993. Mm-hmm. So I was a little behind, that 9 years later, I finally heard this song. And at first I was like, I don't need all these B-sides. B-sides, because I guess I didn't really quite understand that in Prince world, B-sides were not just lower tiered songs, like
Right.
Outcasts, songs that weren't good enough to make the album. That really wasn't what the B-sides are all about when we're talking about Prince. Prince's B-sides were just as strong as many of the album tracks, and not just on Purple Rain era, but 1999, Around the World in a Day, A Sign of the Time. I mean, a lot of those 80s albums where there were still that format, that 45 format, and the flip side with B-sides, those songs were super strong. And so that B-sides collection opened my eyes, not just to this song, but just to the concept of B-sides being kind of like you said, presents or hidden gems,
Mm-hmm.
something that the artist is giving us, the consumer, the fan, as like a gift. Like, here, you went out and bought this song for me. Here's my gift to you.
Exactly.
This song that you can't find elsewhere. So yeah, that was my introduction to 17 Days, but it's always been one of my most favorite Prince B-sides. And a lot of times people will cite She's Always in My Hair or Erotic City, for example, as
Mm-hmm.
their favorite Prince B-side. Maybe something else, but those two are often cited. For me, this is it. This is my favorite Prince B-side, bar none.
Probably my top would be Shockadelica.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
But you do like 17 Days though, right?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I played it to death, probably more than When Doves Cry, actually, when I bought it. Because like I said, it was something I wasn't expecting, and I didn't expect it to be that good. So absolutely, yes.
Yeah, plus it wasn't getting played all the time on MTV or on the radio, so, there was a little bit of fatigue going on with One Dove's Cry, I'm sure. At least I experienced it, and you probably did as well.
I will say though that 17 Days was played a lot on R&B stations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was interesting to me at the time, probably more so than When Doves Cry.
That is interesting.
Yeah, it was. Hmm.
Yeah, I didn't grow up with any R&B stations within range of where I grew up in Wisconsin, so I wouldn't have known that. But that's not surprising. I think Erotic City got a lot of radio
Yes.
play as well
Hmm.
in certain markets, certain stations. So that's not surprising, I guess. What I do think is interesting, and I won't call the song this anymore, but the actual title, like if you got the record, you got the vinyl 45, it says 17 days, and in parentheses, the subtitle is The Rain Will Come Down, Then You Will Have to Choose. If you believe, look to the dawn, and you shall never lose.
Yep.
That's the actual name, the proper name of the song. Nobody calls it that, of course. Just 17
No.
days, and we'll leave it at that from now on. But I thought it was worth mentioning to any of the listeners that that's the actual title of the song. It's very poetic. It's very Prince
Princey.
poetic,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So there was also a piano rehearsal version of this song that was released off of the Piano and a Microphone 1983 release a couple years ago. Did you ever hear that version, Karen?
I heard it. I haven't heard it lately, but I did hear it eventually. I did. Very good.
Yeah, it is. It's just one of the stronger, I think, songs
Yes.
off that Piano and a Microphone 83 album. Mainly because, there's a lot of what, for me at least, there's a lot of similarities between that version and the recorded version. Like,
Hmm.
sure, it's just Prince on the piano, so there's not, the drum track and, the background vocals and some of the things that make the song memorable, the actual recorded song. But a lot of the bones behind the song and Prince's delivery really propel that version to a high standard in my mind. It's I think the lyrics were still getting worked on at the time. He didn't have all of the lyrics that ended up being in the final version of the song, at least during that rehearsal, but the melody's there, and the chorus is there, and so it's all very evident at that moment. And the final version, I think, got recorded in early '84, but he was playing around with this song throughout '83. And I don't know if you did any reading, but I read somewhere that it's possible that this could have been used for the second Vanity Six album.
Yeah, I did read that he actually wrote this song for Vanity Six.
Hmm.
And then when Vanity left the group, he kept it for himself. But as I'm sure you already know, Brenda did the background vocals on this song.
Yep, yep. There's a
Yeah.
version of this song with Brenda Bennett on background, and I think it probably would have been Brenda on lead vocals if it would have ended up on the Vanity Six song, is my guess.
Mhm.
Just because, Brenda was singing along with Prince in the version that we don't have.
Right.
But I think the version that ended up getting put on the B side also has Wendy and Lisa. So
Mhm.
I, I'm not certain. I don't know this for a fact, but I think that you could probably hear all three of them on this track at some point. Even though Prince did he did all the instrumentation, of course, as the lead singer for the song. But there's very clearly later on in the track you hear very distinctly female vocals. I mean, really, there's a whole section that's just the women singing.
Right.
So I just thought that was some interesting, trivia tidbits about the recording of the song, and as people listen to it, if they're not familiar with it, you hear women's voices in the background or singing certain parts of the song. That's probably Wendy and Lisa and maybe Brenda, but we don't.
Right.
Okay, so this song is really kind of another one of those in the line of Prince songs where he's in a very sad state. He's depressed. He's just had a breakup. As we get into the lyrics, it'll be very evident that he's mending a broken heart, and he's lonely, feels abandoned. There's been other songs in his career leading up to this that have mined very similar lyrical paths. Some songs that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, right off of Purple Rain, the Beautiful Ones, he sings that song from a place of heartbreak and heartache. Another one that comes to mind for me personally is also like When You Were Mine, because he sings that song When You Were Mine from somebody who's been rejected, somebody who's been feeling a little bit used and depressed over the ending of a relationship. So this Something in the Water off of 1999 is another one. So
Right.
I mean, these are songs that Prince has done up to this point, where he's taken this approach, this lyrical approach of someone who is very heartbroken, and he's really wearing his emotions on his sleeve. It's very emotional, emo almost to a certain extent, where you can really feel his pain through the lyrics. I'm assuming that's kind of what you get from it as well, Karen.
Yeah, I mean, he's done it many times, and it's like the same scenario with him pining over a lost love or someone who left or someone who hurt him, and he's trying to get over it or he's trying to get them back.
Yeah. What's interesting about 17 Days, though, is even though it's sung from like the sad sack version of Prince, the music behind it is pretty upbeat. I mean, it's you can dance to this song, which you can't really dance to the Beautiful Ones. You can't really dance to Something in the Water.
Or got a broken heart again.
You
No,
can't really dance to Caught a Broken Heart again, no. But you can
no.
dance to 17 Days.
Yes, yes. Very interesting that he put that spin on it. I guess it's still like a hurtful song, but because it's upbeat, you kind of feel like, well, he's not really upset about it. He's just kind of angry about it at the moment that he can't find her or that he can't talk to her.
Yeah, he mentions that several times in the lyrics as we start to go through it, that he's just really just wanting to talk to her.
Right.
And it's mostly mid-tempo. You've got some energetic drums. I think the drums make this song very memorable from a musical standpoint, at least for me personally. And that bass line is pretty dope. I mean, it's really nice. It adds a lot to the song, I think.
A whole lot.
We both agree. Musically, it stands out. Lyrically, it kind of follows the path of somebody who is singing a song from a a brokenhearted state, but also kind of wanting to not just like pining over her, but wanting to potentially reconcile, I
Mhm.
guess. I mean, why else would he want to continue to call her, reconcile, or just be this person's friend? We don't know. The first verse kicks off with, called you yesterday. You didn't answer your phone. The main drag is knowing that you probably weren't alone. So here I sit in my lonely room, looking for my sunshine. But all I've got is 2 cigarettes and this broken heart of mine. Okay, so that's, I call that the first verse. It's really like back to back verses, but there's no chorus in between them, so I'm gonna group them together. So the imagery that's being presented in these 2 verses here at the beginning of the song, what do you see here, Karen? What do you like about these lyrics so far?
He gets right to it. I tried to call you and I couldn't find you, and I'm thinking you were with someone. Um, he just gets right to it. What the song is about. And at this point, you don't know what's going on. You don't know where she is or why he can't find her. And meanwhile, he's sitting in his room thinking about, okay, well, where are you and what are you doing? So it just kind of gets right to the point as far as what's going on with the song.
Yes, it does. It does. I mean, he wants to call her up, even though we have to assume they're not together anymore.
Mhm.
So like, you're thinking of a relationship, and if that person, I mean, he clearly hasn't moved on because he's thinking about, wants to call her, she didn't answer her phone, and he's assuming that she's moved on
Right.
because you probably weren't alone. And I'm sure he's not thinking about, any girlfriend that she might have over. He's likely likely thinking of a man that's there now and taking his place. So that's a main drag. And I like the use of drag because he does this. I don't know what it was at the time, but Prince really liked to use that word drag, which even in the 80s was kind of like an anachronistic word. Like it wasn't really being used very often in people's normal language, but Prince liked to use drag in his lyrics. He said double drag in
Mhm.
sexuality and let's pretend we're married, and now he's saying drag here in this song. Like, man, that's a drag, like a
Mhm.
bummer or something that basically sucks.
Right. Right.
It stands out because nobody else was really doing it, which is kind of cool.
I just really thought of that as soon as you mentioned that. That is true. That
Yeah,
nobody was using that at the
no,
time in that context.
not really. Not that I can think of. I'm sure, somebody could probably cite another artist from
Mhm.
that was recording songs in the early 80s that might have used the word drag, but I can't think of anybody personally. I like the imagery in the second verse where it talks about lonely room looking for my sunshine, because it instantly puts the listener in this place where you're thinking of the singer, in this case Prince, the character he's playing, kind of like sitting like in this dark, gloomy apartment or bedroom or something. He got the lights off, the shades pulled. He's just kind of wallowing in his despair. So it's like almost like a literal and a metaphorical darkness that he's experiencing is the kind of the imagery I get here, sitting in my lonely room. Lonely because, he's alone, of course, but I also get the imagery that he's lonely because he's almost kind of like self-isolating, and I guess we can all kind of relate to self-isolating right now, but he
Right.
feels like he was doing it because he was just so kind of, I don't want to say depressed, but maybe a little bit. And when he's talking about looking for my sunshine, like once again, the literal and metaphorical sunshine, like
Mhm.
she is so important to him and brings so much joy to him that she can bring sunshine into his life. Like I just have like this imagery once again of like a really dark room, and then she enters the room, and you just see the room brighten up, and it gets sunny in there, and that's just what lyrics can do. Good written lyrics can give you images in your brain as you're listening to the singer sing it.
Exactly. And the whole 2 cigarettes, you kind of. sense the desperation. This is all he's got going on. Literally, it's just two cigarettes.
Yeah, which isn't much.
No,
I find that curious though because from all accounts that I've ever read, Prince was not a smoker.
no.
So he didn't even like it wasn't that he was ambivalent toward it. He like didn't like smoking. Really didn't like the fact that one of his bandmates, Lisa Coleman, was a smoker.
Hmm.
Um, and that's just some things that anecdotes that I've read about him. It wasn't like he was a tyrant, like thou shalt not smoke anywhere near me. At least not at that time. Maybe he became that way later. As the older we get, the less tolerant we are of other people's what we call other people's bad habits. Uh, but at the time, I mean, remember the video for Automatic. Do you recall that video, Karen, first of
I
all?
do. Yes.
So Lisa's hanging out with a cigarette dangling from her mouth, and
Hmm.
she's like right up next to Prince. So, like, if it bothered him that much, I can't imagine like he would have told her, like, I really can't do this scene with you while you're smoking a cigarette.
And then, of course, the Purple Rain scenes where she's smoking, when they're waiting, to go on stage.
Oh yeah, yeah, in the
Yeah.
dressing room or whatever.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, I just found it funny because Prince has never been a smoker to any account that I've ever read. I've never seen him with a cigarette in his hand or in his mouth, unless it was like a joke. Like I think there might have been a photo taken where he was in his Jamie Starr character and
Hmm.
him and
Yeah.
Morris Day were cracking up in the studio and he might have had a cigarette there, but he was playing a character. So,
To
yeah.
which leads me to believe that this is, well, I mean, I wouldn't have necessarily thought it was him anyway, but that this is a character, or this is a song about someone else other
Yeah.
than him.
Yeah. I mean, it gives us a clue as the listener.
Yes.
Anybody who doesn't really know Prince would just listen to that line like, oh, that's a cool line. Prince was a smoker, didn't know that, but we know, you and I know better, so
Hmm.
we can think of it from a different angle and think of it like, oh, this is Prince playing a character, and this character smokes, and this character is down to his last two cigarettes and a broken heart, which isn't a whole lot.
No, not at all.
The imagery is really good. I like the lyrics in these first two verses. Tells us a lot about his state of mind, where he's at in this situation that he's in. The girl is gone. He's wishing that he could talk to her, maybe to win her back, or maybe just he wants some closure. Not sure. Bottom line is, I mean, he says he has a broken heart, so it's pretty laid out, very clear for us as the listener that this man is dealing with a broken heart, and his sunshine, his quote unquote sunshine, is gone. And then we get to the chorus. So let the rain come down. Let the rain come down. Let the rain come down, down. And he repeats those three lines again. Let the rain come down. And that's the chorus. And what that does for me, you listen to that as he's talking about how he's in a lonely room and he's missing his sunshine. Well, yeah, I mean, once the imagery is again of a very kind of overcast, gloomy situation that he's in. So what does it do when it's overcast and gloomy? It rains.
Rains.
It
Right.
rains. So he's basically once again wallowing in despair, and not only is it in his heart, whether or not he's speaking literally, it's rain coming down, or he's just saying this is all just so much, I'm dealing with so much heartache. It's raining in my heart and my soul right now.
Hmm.
It's just cloudy, dark, dreary, and rainy.
Right. I kind of thought, well, I remember when I first started hearing the song, I used to think Let the Rain Come Down may have been tears too.
Hmm.
But I think I like better how you interpreted it because, if you don't have sunshine, you're going to have rain. And he had lost his sunshine, so that makes more sense in this song.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of this, though. I mean,
Hmm.
your original interpretation years ago about the rain, being tears is 100% valid, and I like that as well because
Hmm.
it's not like saying I'm just crying over you, I'm crying, crying, crying. It's still a very poetic kind of way of saying like I'm really sad. you know.
Right.
And I guess in the way I'm thinking of it, the way I thought of it, I get like this image, and I'm sure you've probably seen cartoon character images where somebody is walking around with a cloud hanging over their head.
Yes.
And it's just raining on that one person. Like everybody else
Right.
around that person is dry and it's sun shining, but that one person has this rain cloud just following them around everywhere. And that's what I've kind of gotten from this song and the lyrics over the years is Prince is that character. He's the one walking around with this rain cloud over his head all the time because he's just so sad. But I like your tears metaphor for rain being tears as well. That's good. I'm sure that there's other people that can think of additional interpretations of this, like maybe the rain, I don't know, washing away the pain or washing away the loss. Maybe he wants the rain to come down, so he says, "So let the rain come down." So it's almost like he's wishing it to come
To
down.
wash away the pain. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
If you're thinking
Right.
of like dirty streets or something that's dirty, like your car is dirty, sometimes you want the rain to come down to kind of wash away the
Mhm.
grime and the dirt that has been accumulating. And after a rain shower, everything kind of feels a little bit fresher and newer.
That sounds good to me because it makes sense in this song.
Yeah, yeah, we kind of get the impression that he's been experiencing this 17 days for 17 days now, and he's tired of it. I mean, can you imagine? Like 17 days doesn't seem like a long time. It's less than a month, but when you've been dealing with loss for 17 days
Hmm.
and you've been in like this state of mind, it probably feels like forever, I would imagine.
Absolutely, and I would be interested to know how he came up with the number 17 because and maybe because it is the song, it works because you can't. I mean, 16 days doesn't sound right. 15 days, 20 days. I don't know. Something about 17 days clicks. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. And the only thing I can think of is we kind of know that Prince had a thing for the number seven.
Hmm.
Now, 17 is not seven, but it does have the number seven in it. So
Hmm.
that's it may be a stretch. I may be really kind of reaching here, but I as I listen to Prince's music with the knowledge that seven was a number that he really kind of gravitated towards for whatever reason. You start to hear it everywhere. Like in songs,
Hmm.
he'll mention seven here and seven there, and a lot of times it's not really upfront. I mean, it's not like as overt as the song Seven, for example, but
Hmm.
there will still be lines in songs where he says seven. Now, 7 days. I mean, he could have named the song 7 days, but that's all. I mean, 7 days is a week, and that's a very specific
Hmm.
time frame. It's a
Right.
period of time that everybody can relate to a week. But 17 is much more random. It feels like it's specific, but randomly specific. Like why 17? Who knows?
Right.
But
Right.
all I can point to is just it still has the number seven in it. You could have done maybe 27, but then that's almost a month. So it's like it's perfect. It's like it's this perfect middle ground. Longer than a week, less than a month.
Just enough time to be depressed.
Yeah, just enough
17
time for it to
days.
be a
Yeah.
long period of time, but not so long that this person is probably too far gone.
Right. Right.
The first mention of the title is in this next verse after the chorus. You've been gone 17 days, 17 long nights. The main drag is knowing that you're holding someone else tight. I want to call you every day and beg you to be near me, but I know your head is underwater. I doubt that you can hear me. So yeah, like I said, here's where we get the first mention of the title. You've been gone 17 days, 17 long nights. He kind of like these two verses follow the same pattern as the first two verses where the main drag is doing that. You're holding someone else tight, so he's still bummed out by the fact that he's either knows or just believes in his heart that she's moved on,
Mhm.
and now she's holding someone else, not him. And then with the second half of this section of verses, I want to call you every day. So he mentions again calling. He wants to call her. In the first verse, he says, I called and didn't answer your phone. Now he's saying, I want
Mhm.
to call you every day and beg you to be near me. So once again, he's still pining. You get that from the fact that he's he's picking up that telephone. First he was doing it, now he says he wants to do it.
And
So maybe
she's evidently gone away, so it's not like he can go talk to her in person. She's really
yes, yeah.
gone. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, you kind of do get that impression that because he has to reach out to her via phone, that either he's too afraid of seeing her in person or she's too far away, literally too
Mhm.
far away, like she's moved away.
Right.
And but the last section, the lines, but I know your head is underwater. I doubt that you can hear me. Those lines always stuck out to me. I really think that is great writing. So, Karen, what do you get from those lines when you hear them?
Well, your head is underwater. Maybe he's thinking that she's not thinking straight. When you're underwater, you can't hear anything. You can't see or really hear what's going on around you.
Yeah, it's a little
So it's
warped.
right. So it's hard for anybody to communicate with you. And when I first heard that, I was thinking that she was, unreachable
Hmm.
in a sense that she's not thinking straight, so she's not going to hear what I'm saying because she's out there, like she's not thinking straight for
Hmm.
me to even be able to reach her and explain to her how much she means to me. Like she's out of it, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, out of touch, out of her head, and I also get like a little bit like she's self-absorbed, maybe. So maybe like he's trying to say, with her head being underwater, that she's not going to listen to him because she's maybe not self-absorbed, maybe just really headstrong. Like
Okay.
somebody's just kind of stubborn, and it doesn't matter what he says, doesn't matter how convincing he is or could be, because her quote unquote head is underwater. The metaphor of just being unreachable, like you said. He could be screaming in her ear, and she's not gonna hear what he's saying because she's not in a frame of mind that is accepting to his words, maybe. So
I
like,
like that.
yeah, it's not necessarily even, I don't get necessarily like literally that she can't hear him.
Right.
She can, I bet, but she's just not understanding the meaning behind his words, not paying
Right.
attention, not really caring even.
Mhm.
Like if you've broken up with somebody and that person is trying to convince you to take them back, you're probably not going to really pay attention to their words. You're
Right.
paying attention to like their tone, and maybe you're just hoping to God they just go away. you
Right. You
know?
tune them out. You're
Yeah,
not
like
listening.
she's not listening to him for a reason because she's not interested in him anymore, and he's not quite understanding that. He's not getting it. but I do. But I'm just saying, I do like that. I do like the imagery there. Your head is underwater. I doubt you can hear me, because it is a very cool way of basically saying this person is unreachable for whatever reason, and we're just speculating why. But you and I agree that this person is unreachable, and it's not just because she's physically far away either.
Mhm.
She's just
Mhm.
not. She's just not having it. She's not into it anymore.
Exactly.
I also, I think I get sadness. I mean, we've talked about this song being kind of mid-tempo to up-tempo at times, but I get a lot of sadness from those two lines right there. But I know, like, I want to call you every day and beg you to be near me. Like, I
Mhm.
want to do this. I want to be so close to you. But I know your head is underwater. I doubt that you can hear me. To me, that's a sad line because it's coming from a place where this guy is almost like ready to give up.
Right. and he's begging her. He wants to beg her to be near him. So he is desperate at this point.
Yeah, there's just something about a person when they're kind of resigning that's a bit sad to me, especially when you're
Hmm.
talking about resigning a relationship. Anybody who's resigning to the fact that the person that they love is unreachable, that's a sad sentiment for me. That's like basically saying I have to give up even though I don't want to. And everything about this feels right to me, but I have to give up now. He's recognizing that she's not going to come back. And I find that sad.
It's very sad.
Yeah.
And in the context of the song, it like you said, he's getting to a point now where he kind of realizes that there's nothing he can do, and it really is over.
Yep.
And it took him 17 days to get to that point.
Yeah, yeah, and that's
Yeah,
kind of what it boils down to, right? I mean, the 17 days is how long it took him to figure out that in spite of all of his efforts, that it's over. So after those lines, he gets back to the chorus. The chorus is the same. So let the rain come down, let the rain come down, let the rain come down, down. And then after singing the chorus again, we get the first kind of like hint of the female backing vocals. That section of the song is there's no Prince at all in that. That's all the women singing, whether it's Wendy and Lisa and Brenda or whomever.
hmm
That's all the women, and so that's just kind of like a reiteration, and it's the ha-has go along with the drum track, which is cool. And I think there's a synth line there too.
hmm
Do 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 do. And I think that synth line, when people think of this song, that's what I think a lot of people recognize and remember is how that section goes. You can hum that
Right.
To any Prince fan, and they know exactly what song you're singing or you're
Famous
humming.
hook. Famous
Yeah,
hook.
it's a great hook. You're right, absolutely. And after that section, though, then we get some more lyrics. So there's actually quite a bit of lyrics in the song. So this is where he starts talking.
Hmm.
So after the ha ha ha's 17 days, then he gets into the section where he's just talking, he's just speaking. He's not singing these lines. Called you yesterday. You didn't answer your phone. If you're the one who's always lonely, then I'm the one who's always alone. With a lot of times when Prince does his speaking sections in songs, I guess it just depends on the approach he takes. But we kind of know Prince's speaking voice can be deep and a little bit softer.
Hmm.
So it's not always easy to pick up what he's saying when he does this in song, when he speaks in the song, because it's not like the music completely drops out. There's still
Right.
music being played behind these lines.
I sometimes had trouble, and I would have to keep replaying it or try to find the lyrics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can see that. I mean, it depends on like if you're. I think it depends on where you're listening to it.
Hmm.
Like if you've got headphones on, sure, you can get it. But
Yes.
if like you're jamming out in your car and you've got like ambient noise, you got these streets and other cars and just the fact that you're driving and you've got the wind rushing, it's not easy. You're right. I think it depends on where you're listening to these lines. But um, talking about the phone again, so he's back up on the phone. He's repeating it again. This whole theme of trying to get her on the phone to call her up and talk to her. It doesn't say why he wants to talk to her, or what he wants to talk about,
Hmm.
but he's really trying to desperately get her on the phone, as he's done just about every single section of lyrics so far mentions something about calling her. And in here with the if you're the one who's always lonely, then I'm the one who's always alone section, I think what I kind of was thinking about with this, it almost suggests that he says that she's lonely, which is kind of the first time you hear that. You get the
Hmm.
impression that he's all thinking she's moved on, she's got another guy now. But he says, you're the one who's always lonely. And he says, if you're the one. So it almost tells me like she's mentioned that to him at some point in their relationship, or mentioned that to him. Like, because you can be with somebody and be lonely, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
you can be an emotionally your emotional needs not being met even when you're in a relationship. And I just wonder if, like with these lines where he says, if you're the one who's always lonely, I wonder if at some point he's suggesting that she said that to him when they were
That's it.
together.
That's exactly what I got from it.
Oh,
That
cool.
that 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 may have been something that she mentioned to him before, which is why she's no longer with him. That she was lonely in the relationship.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
good.
exactly what I got.
Okay, very cool, very cool. 'Cause I wasn't sure if I was just kind of reaching with that one, but you got the same thing. So
Mhm.
yeah, because it kind of, and when he says that, he's saying like almost repeating it as like trying to point out what he thinks is like a flaw in her logic. Like you say that you were lonely, then why am I the one that's alone? You know, you've apparently moved on. You've apparently found somebody else who maybe, he's jealous of the fact that she could find somebody else that won't leave her lonely in the relationship while he's all by himself. So he's a little bit being selfish here,
Right.
maybe.
Right.
Like speaking of like I don't, I'm the only one with pain here. Well, maybe not. It's always two sides to every story, as we know, and we're getting one half in this song. But
One
that's
side of the story, yes.
yeah, but it's kind of cool that he chose to insert these lines because it could have just been very completely 100% one-sided look. And by writing these lines here in this section of the song, Prince chose to throw us as the listener maybe an alternate look at the relationship that he's singing about, and doing it maybe at the expense of how the singer looks in the song.
Mhm.
If he's telling us by singing these lines that she at some point told him she was lonely with him while she was with him, that's not a real favorable way of looking at, within, like you were so emotionally absent that she was lonely when she was with you. She couldn't find that soulmate with you. I thought it was smart of Prince. Otherwise, it's just all woe is me. But
Right.
this is him giving us a chance to say, yeah, I probably wasn't so perfect in this either. I have a role to play in the end of this relationship.
Let us see a different side, or give us a little snippet of what actually went on in the
Hmm.
relationship.
Yeah, yeah, very
Mhm.
smart of him to do that. Any other comments about this section of the song before I move on, Karen?
I just thought it was interesting that he spoke this part versus singing it in some way. It's almost like he's thinking out loud to himself. I thought that was interesting that he put the talking point right there and then
Yeah.
went right back into, so here I sit.
Hmm.
I thought that was I thought that was kind of cool that he put that in there.
Yeah, right. Because you're thinking like the way the lyrics are structured, he's singing the lines like he's talking to us, the listener, but that spoken section is almost like his inner thoughts
Mhm.
that weren't really meant to be necessarily shared,
Right.
but they were anyway because you know we're we're voyeurs in this person's misery. But yeah, good point. I do like that as well. He could have sang those lines and he chose not to for a reason. And then he moves on after that. So here I sit in my lonely room looking for my sunshine. All I've got is 2 cigarettes and this broken heart of mine. So that's a repeat of a previous verse, basically same lines there. And it just brings home the point again that he's right back to square one. He's
Mhm.
still in his lonely room, still looking for his sunshine, back to his 2 cigarettes and a broken heart. I mean, nothing's really changed. Nothing's changed throughout the
Nothing.
course of the song. He's still extremely lonely, still extremely sad, and completely bummed out.
And I don't know about you, but when you're trying to get answers, especially if you're having problems in a relationship and you can't reach that person, oh my gosh. It's like come on, I'm trying to talk to you. I'm trying to get answers and you won't talk to me. It's it's very, very, very frustrating,
Yeah.
and it can occupy like hours in your day, you trying to reach this person. So I get that, and he definitely relays that through this song.
Well, yeah, it's funny you mentioned frustrating because after this verse, then he goes back into the chorus, let the rain come down, let the rain come down, down. And then the song starts to kind of fade out. I mean, it's ending now, but he's got
Mm-hmm.
this one last line that he sings in a very frustrated tone. Why don't you answer your phone?
Exactly.
And that speaks exactly to what you just said, where he's got something to say.
Mm-hmm.
He never really tells us in the song what that is. I mean, what's this magic? What are these magic words he's going to speak to this person if he gets her on the phone? That's going to make anything different. That's going to change anything. We don't know. He doesn't tell us.
Right.
All he's trying to do in this song is convey the loneliness and frustration that he gets from not being able to reach her. Why don't you answer your phone? I mean, that's why he keeps bringing up the whole called you, tried to call you, I want to call you. Why don't you answer your phone? Because he apparently feels like he has something to say and he wants to at least explore that. I don't get the feeling that he's necessarily saying, like, I've got the answer if you would
Mm-hmm.
just pick up the phone. But he at least needs to try. He needs to at least give it a shot. And he can't because he can't reach her. And like you said, that has got to be terribly frustrating for somebody who's already, obsessed with how this ended and very broken up about it to the point where that's all they're like totally consumed with this thought.
And he's been trying to reach her for days, not just this
17
day.
days.
So yeah, yeah. So it's like, come on now. How
Yeah.
how is it that in 17 days I haven't been able to call you or talk to you? Come on.
Yeah. I don't know if this was before you could block phone calls.
Clearly.
She's just got, I don't know if she has caller ID or if she just knows like, oh, well, that's got to be him.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
else is going to be calling me at this time of day?
And like you said, we don't even know what he wants to say to her. It
Nope.
could be an apology. It could be an admission of something. It could be anything that he's trying to tell her. So,
Yeah. Yep. And that's where kind of the song basically ends at that point because he's as the last chorus just keeps getting repeated and repeated, and he throws in the "Why don't you answer your phone?" And
hmm
then more of the "Let the rain come down." Then you get the women 17 days,
right.
and that's how the song ends. It's a fade out song. It doesn't have like an abrupt ending like When Doves Cry does. This song really taps into like an angsty teenager type song that maybe if I was a teenager, I wasn't, I was a little too young still, but if I was a teenager in 1984, this song could have really been something that spoke to me, especially if I had experienced a breakup.
Yep.
Like you feel very, everything is more heightened when you're a kid. Like the feelings of rejection, it feels stronger. I
hmm
feel like when you're younger and you don't have the maturity to kind of back that up. And I can just see this song being a teenage anthem for somebody who was experiencing a breakup. Like they could play this song. It says, Prince speaks to me. He
Exactly.
understands me. He
Exactly.
understands this feeling of loneliness and frustration when you can't reach out to the person that you just need to clear things up with or talk to. So, that for me, like this loss and sadness would have really been attractive to teenagers at the time who potentially were experiencing like this kind of emotions.
Right. And there was no social media, there was no texting back then, so it was just the phone.
Yeah.
That was it. If you couldn't see the person in person, you had to call them. So that was the only way to really reach anyone back then, other than, a letter or something, was just to call them.
Yep.
So yeah.
Exactly. And there's lots of use of that of that word, call. So we know that in this time frame, as both of us were alive at then, if you couldn't get somebody on the phone, if they were not within reasonable visiting distance, unable to get them on the phone, you were pretty much that was pretty much
Done.
it.
Yep.
You could send them a letter, I guess,
Yeah.
if you knew
Yeah.
their address, but there's also no guarantee they're gonna respond. I mean, and Prince in general. I mean, once again, like the whole appeal of Prince at the time to the younger population. I mean, he represented so many different things. He could represent, like the heartbreak in a song like this, in sadness, but then also on another song he could be very sexual and irreverent. There's a little bit of danger and anarchy in some of his songs and his lyrics too. So you get the whole range of stuff, all the stuff that appeals to younger people. You get it all with Prince. And yeah, this song can be categorized and cataloged under the heartbreak section of Prince songs, but he does it so well, and he's able to convey those emotions so well through these lyrics that it's not just a woe is me song anymore. It becomes like you can relate to it. So Karen, with 17 days, we're pretty much wrapping it up here. There's no more lyrics at this point. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of the lyrics to 17 days, or even just, your attachment to the song as somebody who heard it when it was out? I mean, did you experience any kind of heartbreak that you could have thought that song speaks to me, or is it always just a really good song with a kind of a sad message that you related to in a different way?
Well, when I used to listen to it all the time, like you said, it had a nice groove. You could dance to it. That's what I remember, was just hearing it and just hearing that beat and just getting into it like that. That it was a great song to dance to.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the lyrics, uh, especially when he would speak those lyrics, I would think about, not being able to reach somebody or not being able to talk to somebody that you've broken up with. And I could relate for some reason when I would hear him say those words, then I would think about it. But as far as the song overall, I just love the hook and the sound of the song. I mean, it was a dance song to me. It wasn't like a heartbreak song to me, even though it was.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I remembered it. And even when I listen to it now, it's just a groove to me. But again, when you would hear him speak those words, you'd be like, dang, then you would think about it. For me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was the same way. I didn't, when I first heard it in the early 90s because of its position on the hits and B-sides, I was really attracted to the music.
Mhm.
It was the groove, like you said. The music I loved, the drums, just the creativity behind that, the swirling like psychedelic guitar that starts the song, just all of that was really kind of appealing to me and cool. And yeah, I knew that it was a song about heartbreak. You got that from the chorus, got that from hearing some of the lines. But diving into the lyrics now for this episode, for this podcast, in a way that I hadn't before, I think it really has elevated itself as that kind of heartbreak song where, yeah, okay, I'm not experiencing that currently, but it can be relatable to anybody who's
Anybody.
gone through that kind of experience of not being able to reach somebody. It doesn't even have to be about a breakup. It can just be anybody that you're just trying to get a hold of and you can't because of whatever limitations you have for communication, whether it's because of distance or you don't have their phone number anymore, they blocked you, whatever. I mean,
Oh God.
there's so
Yes.
many ways that you can communicate with people now in 2020,
Mhm.
but that doesn't make it necessarily any easier to communicate. If you know what
Especially if that person doesn't want to talk to you. That's what hurts the most. Even if you can reach them, if they're not talking to you, if they don't want to deal with you, it hurts. Like
mm-hmm.
you said, on for whatever reason, romantic or otherwise. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Like you can also you can insert like if you have like a close friendship that ends, you can almost have like
Hmm.
the same kind of experience losing a very close friend or fall out with a family member. I mean, it can all fit
Right.
into that. Okay, so 17 days. It really stands tall among a lot of Prince's B-sides. For a lot of people, it's either, top three, top five, number one, like it is for me. And I think that this song will endure as one of those hidden tracks. Like people who are getting into Prince later, I hope that they find this song. But I kind of think it's cool that if you're just digging into his discography proper,
Hmm.
you're not going to get this song right away.
No, I don't think
You're
so
not going to
either.
hear it. But for those people, it'll eventually catch wind of it. People will talk about, oh, I need to check out that song, and then your mind's gonna be blown because it's that good. Bottom line.
I agree. And it's still, you still hear it on, old school R&B stations. You still hear it there, you
Good,
know. Yeah.
good. It needs to be. It needs to be out there as um, part of the song, part of the collection of songs from the '80s of Prince's music that gets played. It doesn't need to just be the same six, seven songs over and over again. There's so many great
Exactly.
songs throughout his entire
Hmm.
career. But
Right.
even if a station like an oldie station or you know a, an old school R&B station wanted to just focus on Prince's '80s stuff, there's still so much more there. You don't have to just play the same six or seven songs. And I'm
I
and I'm
agree.
and I'm thrilled that B-sides are getting some play. All right. Okay. So I think you've had your final say. I've had my final say. So we'll wrap it up now.
Okay.
Thanks, Karen, for joining me again.
Thank you. And thank you for having me again. I always enjoy this, so I appreciate the opportunity.
Anytime, Karen, and I'll have you back on. All right. So this has been the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast. I've been your host, Jason Brenninger. Thanks again to Karen Shedrick for joining me on the 17 Days episode. Reach me at PressRewind75 on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. So thank you again, and until next time, goodbye.